Okay, I think we're kind of live, and I hope we're kind of live. But let's make sure. This is gonna be interesting as shit. Are we live? Are we live? I think we're live. Yes, no, maybe. Um, Crap. This is not the best time to check see if you're live or not. I think we're getting there. Oh yeah, we're live. All right, cool. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Today's date is August 31st. Almost into winter is coming, and thank goodness because I did not like this heat. But definitely August 31st, 2019, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. The very late edition. I do apologize. A lot of stuff happened to where our usual start time was backed up. But thank you all for watching. And like I said, on how the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events and news of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan. And before we get started, this is an adult podcast, which means things of adult language may be said and things of graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. So let's get into it. I believe Donald Trump has become a weatherman, and this is what he had to say about Hurricane Dorian.
Takes a right and goes up north, but that's about a 5% chance. It's not looking good. And it's one of the biggest hurricanes we've seen in a long time. So it could be very devastating. I just spoke to Rick Scott, and I just spoke to, we have a lot of people that we're speaking to. I spoke with Marco Rubio, spoke to your governors of both Georgia, as you know, Georgia and Florida, and they're doing really well. They're working hard. Florida seems to be the target at this moment, but good things are happening. FEMA's there. Tremendous work is going on. Many gas trucks are coming in. They're bringing gas from Louisiana and all over. And we don't know about evacuation. We're leaving it up locally right now. We're going to see where it's coming in. We just don't know exactly where it's going to be coming and how far in it's coming. So I'm going to Camp David. We have a lot of experts with us. We have a lot of the FEMA people that are coming up, but we're really, very importantly, coming back. And on Sunday at 12:30, we have a meeting at FEMA headquarters. And that will be about the time that we'll know where everything's going. A lot of decisions will be made. That'll be a little bit less than a day before it hits. So we'll see what happens.
Riveting. So pretty much Trump talking about Hurricane Dorian. Pretty much at the time of this being looked into, it was a Category 4 hurricane that's about to hit east of the coast of Florida. So hopefully for everybody that's in Florida, you safely evacuated. There are reports of excuse me. There are reports of individuals wanting to stay. I've never understood that logic, but we hope everybody is safe and, doesn't try to do anything that might put them in harm. I just thought it was funny to hear Donald Trump literally talk about, well, the weather in such a... He talks about everything in such a grand way, doesn't he? Just the whole idea. It's the biggest storm we've ever had. We've had a lot of Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes come through, but yet apparently Dorian seems to be the biggest one in Donald Trump's life, as it is in everything he talks about. But anyway, but speaking of that though, he actually also did mention some other crazy stuff. And usually every week I usually do this whole thing of how dumb can he say something else. Well, at this point, this is almost damn near perjury. This is almost damn near impeachable, if it plays. I thought I had a handle. Yeah, we'll give it a second. And this is nice. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and go into it for this one. So sorry guys, I don't know what happened to the video on there. What the video I wanted to show is that that Donald Trump pretty much sat there and
laser focused
now
on building the border.
And now you want to stop.
The wall that he campaigned on. So laser focused, he's telling aides, break.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and just stop. So pretty much, Donald Trump is pretty much saying, well, let's be honest, this was told that he's instructed he's basically trying to get this wall built any way he can. And so the way he said that he would do it, aside from taking down every environmental regulation, as far as using eminent domain to take lands, he also told people that, hey, break every rule that you can and I will pardon you. So apparently, how in the world can end it? Well, at this point, we really should be surprised what Trump may or may not say, because for the simple fact of the matter, he's going to do it regardless, even though he expects apologies from people that may report incorrect things about him. He's yet to sit there and say this was wrong. And it's amazing to me that for some odd reason that this is allowed to get away with. For the simple fact of the matter is just that, yes, Trump just literally sat there and said, in a mob mentality, don't worry, I have you covered. And that should be very alarming to us, that he could go that far and would go that far to literally say that, especially in this sense now that re-election's coming up. And honestly, his presidency is under a microscope, because I dare anybody to literally look up and see what he has actually done. Because positive wise, I mean, he hasn't done, like I've told people, it's like, I don't like Trump. It's very obvious I don't like Trump. But looking from a non-biased position, what has Trump actually done to stimulate the economy? For a businessman, he has basically ran his administration the same way he runs his companies. We should not be surprised by this, because a lot of people were already projecting this. Unfortunately, you can't put the United States of America in bankruptcy court, which is usually where most of his businesses wind up anyway. But moving right along, like I said, it's going to kind of be a short show. We don't really have a lot to report on this week. However, I do need to have a section where white folks just don't know. White folks say the dumbest things, and pretty much just have a segment related to that. Only because this anchor surprisingly still has her job. I wish I could make this up.
It was inappropriate, and that hurt people.
Okay, you have to see then. Definitely ready to close up. Kind of looks like you. It kind of does, actually, yeah.
I'm here this morning because I want to apologize, not only to my coworker, Jason, but to our entire community. I said something yesterday that was inconsiderate, it was inappropriate, and that hurt people. And I want you to know, I understand how much I hurt you out there and how much I hurt you. I love you so much, and I love our community. And I want you all to know, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize for what I said. I know it was wrong, and I am so sorry.
Alex, thank you very much, and I do accept your apology, and I do appreciate your apology. What she said yesterday was wrong. It cut deep for me, and it cut deep for a lot of you in the community. And I guess coming out of this, I want this to be a teachable moment, and that lesson here is that words matter. There's no doubt about that. Changing demographics here in this country, the demographics are changing. We're becoming a more diverse country, and there's no excuse. We have to understand the stereotypes. We have to understand each other's backgrounds and the words that hurt, the words that cut deep, and we have to find a way to replace those words with love and words of affirmation as well. And our goal, and what we need to do, is use those words not to hurt and not to divide, but to build a more perfect union.
Okay, you have to see then. Definitely ready by close up. Kind of looks like you. It's kind of good.
And the Oscar for Best Fake Crying goes to that woman. Yes, basically, an anchor woman, decided to basically tell her coworker, yeah, this gorilla kind of looks like you. And what made me angry about the entire situation, aside from this woman, literally still having a job, was the black guy. You can hear in the background, yeah, he kind of does. I'll be honest, if I was on that set and that happened, oh, I would. I don't care if I was the cameraman. I don't care if I was the grip. I don't. Somebody was gonna catch hell. But it just, aside from that, she just had crocodile tears. Let's be honest. I just want to apologize for hurting so many people. So many people. I understand that words hurt, but she didn't understand. But you still in that moment sat there and said, "Kind of looks like you." And this is where I honestly don't get it. You would think in a culturally appropriate situation, you don't mention anything of a cultural stereotype to a certain demographic. I mean, you don't show bananas to a black person and say, hey, well, you monkeys and black people are the same way, right? You should got your ass whooped, then you should got your ass fired. But at the same time, it's the whole thing of best. It's just the lack, and people go, well, it's the lack of cultural surroundings. No, I want to say that partly yes, but the other side of it all is just that this woman felt comfortable enough to literally say a joke. She was saying in a joking manner, and trust me, she understood, because there's no such thing as cultural ignorance. Like I said, there's a lot of things you just don't do. You don't do certain things toward people of color. You don't do certain things toward people of certain religions. You don't do certain things toward people of different preferences. You just don't. It's called being fucking considerate. In her case, she didn't give a shit. And that's why she felt the freedom to say it. And I'm more mad about the fact that the guy in that one, a black man, literally sat there and said, you know what, yeah, you're kind of right. And then you come on there with that bullshit. Well, we need to understand that words hurt. No. I kind of felt like, it's like, dude, either you got the best bonus of a lifetime, or you got some pull at that station. But in order for you to get that pull at that station, you had to turn around and say this bullshit speech about, we understand that our words hurt, and we understand that we need to replace those words with love and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, if I were you, aside from asking, your coworker needs to, because here's the thing about it is, I would have sat there and said, your coworker needs to learn some things. And by learning some things, you need to learn that, hey, what if I just called you this, that, and the other? Would you be offended? Or if I sit there and compared you to a toothpick, would you be offended? But it's just those things that just make no sense to me, that this person is still allowed to keep her job, by the way. That's the one thing that's like, she still has a job. Think about this. What are we actually teaching here? Are we teaching the fact that the white person can sit there and make a gorilla reference to a black person and still keep their job, and the black person smiling and whatnot, and the next day he's trying to be all middle of the road, turn the other cheek? Fuck that. I'm sorry, I've never been a turn the cheek person when an individual decides to use that kind of reference, and then the next day it's like, oh, I didn't know. I thought it was. There's no such thing as cultural ignorance. That's a bullshit thing that people like to use, where it's like, I didn't know that this affected you people that affected people that much. No, that's your white privilege talking, and therefore you should be accounted for. But again, old girl should have been fired, just like every other anchor that's came on and said something crazy. They've either been fired or they've resigned. But amazingly enough, this woman still keeps her job, and some black people I just look at differently. When I'm like, how in the blue hell could you sit there and agree to this. And I said I should have known it, because the moment he said yeah, kind of chuckling on the air, when he should have just been dead silent. Because if he was dead silent when she said that, oh, I could understand his anger. But that's not anger. I'm not getting anger and wanting to change from him. I'm getting go along with the flow type thing. But then again, hey, I can't really. It's like I can't be in that situation. It's hard for me not to want to be angry at something, but sit there and talk about love and understanding, acceptance. There needs to be accountability, especially if you're in a new situation where people view you, and that's just gonna basically just, well, it's just gonna be shit, is what it's gonna be. But hey, I wish somebody would sit there and tell me, hey, Will, you look like you kind of resemble a gorilla. I'll be in jail for assault. Because I will be probably smacking somebody. But anyway, moving forward, like I said, not a lot of news, so we're just going to keep on going with it. So Trump decided to fire more people, and here's why.
The White House,
President Trump's personal assistant at his side since day one of his administration has been forced to resign. ABC's Kira Phillips joins us now. And Kira, the president just spoke about what happened.
That's right, Tom. Her name is Madeleine Westerhout, and she's been the president's chief gatekeeper here at the White House. She actually sits right outside the Oval Office, but she was forced out after the president learned that she was sharing potentially embarrassing details about the Trump family during an off-the-record dinner with reporters. Now, moments ago, the president told me that he just got off the phone with Westerhout and that the president said she was having a bad night drinking. And you just don't say those things that she said, Tom.
Yes. So apparently the personal aide for Donald Trump, for President Cheeto, was let go because apparently she said some shit to reporters. I kind of want to know what the fuck she said. Personally, I'm like, I kind of really want to know what she said. Just because of the fact of the matter, I'm just wanting to know, because Trump doesn't want any information. I'm like, he's already got, again, we've discussed this many times. We really have on the show. We've discussed this many times, how he uses everybody to protect himself. I mean, his person at the Feds, I'm sorry, his person at the IRS Treasury, is blocking anybody from getting his personal tax reports, and he says he isn't. William Barr is pretty much going after every legislation that every state's trying to pull his tax. That certain states are trying to pull his tax returns from there because, again, Donald Trump's not a private citizen anymore, so they can request that. And at the same time, you have companies who are literally lobbying for Trump to lower all type of EPA emissions, things of that nature. So I can only imagine what this secretary has said, apparently inebriated, that literally and figuratively had Trump to fire. And I guarantee you, it must be something, because I hope she comes out with a book deal. I really hope she does, because that's usually the way that a lot of former Trump people usually go the route of. You know, they get fired, they get released, they get a book deal, and then somehow they wind up on Fox. Sarah Sanders is already there. But I just thought that was interesting because, again, I still want to know what the fuck she said that got her that pretty much that Trump had to get rid of her. But speaking of the other side, though, the new debates are coming up for the DNC, and this is what they have so far.
National Committee has
officially certified the 10 candidates to qualify for the debate, and ABC News has determined, based on polling averages, where those candidates will stand on stage. And here it is for the first time. Take a look right now. 10 candidates in Houston, September 12th. Front and center, of course, Joe Biden, former vice president, the polling leader. He'll be flanked by Elizabeth Warren, senator of Massachusetts, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. And then the left wing of the stage will be Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Cory Booker of New Jersey, Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. On the right wing of the stage, Kamala Harris of California, Andrew Yang, the businessman, Beto O'Rourke, former congressman of Texas, and Julian Castro will be there as well. Rick Klein, our political director, is here. Rick, this is a very exciting stage to look at. The first time all these front runners will be on stage together.
Yeah, one night only, and these are the 10 candidates that will be there. They are the 10 top candidates in the polls. That's how they gain certification. And the way that we distributed them across the stage, Devin, was to reflect that fact exactly, that we took the last 10 polls that qualified under the DNC regulations for debate qualification and then distributed them out from there. And that's why you see the polling frontrunner, Joe Biden, number 2 in recent.
And I'm just going to stop it right there just because the simple fact of the matter, that's really all I wanted to show. That finally, the Democratic field has finally narrowed the fuck down. I still honestly believe we need to be more narrower. Reason being is just that I go by politics as far as the people that present plans. And let's be honest, the only plans we ever heard from were either from Sanders, from Warren, from Yang, from O'Rourke, from Buttigieg. So, excuse me. So as far as Amy Klobuchar and Julian Castro, Julian Castro, I should say his name, I apologize. It just feels like although the field used to be more than 20 and that's now pretty much under 12, it still needs to be narrower. It should have been narrower at this point. But at the same time, I'm just still so, and a lot of people don't know there is a person running against Trump on the Republican side. He's not getting a lot of press because again, there are just some people out there that don't know that yes, Trump does have to run against someone else. But as far as DNC goes, I don't really trust the DNC just because of how they screwed over Sanders, because they pretty much wanted to push Hillary up front, although Hillary in her own right was more than qualified to be president, and she had, despite how you may feel about her, because a lot of people got different feelings about Hillary Clinton, but let's be honest, she was a very qualified woman to actually be president, and trust me, when compared to Trump now, I'd still pick Hillary just because of the fact of the matter is just that, well, you have qualified versus no experience, which to this day, I still should be applying to jobs that I have no experience for, because if President Trump can be president, then doggone it, I can be in a job that I have no experience in. I'm just saying. But aside from that, like I said, it's just interesting that this DNC group is still so rather large, and I'm just like, it needs to get down to a point where polls really should be taken into consideration. It should be, the whole thing about them qualifying for the Iowa caucus, South Carolina, all that stuff. I just think that is the most antiquated system, when it really should just come down to, and it really should just come down to what the people want. Like, my whole thing is, and that's how President Obama did it. President Obama used social media, and he pretty much used grassroots organizations everywhere to get elected. Let's just be honest. And at the same time, he didn't really push forward a lot of plans, although at the time he was about to be the nation's first black president. We were just happy to be behind him because he had the posture, the calm demeanor, and pretty much had it made to where, you could trust him. So I guess in his case, when you look at Warren, who is more than qualified to be president, has come on multiple plans. Bernie Sanders, also qualified to be president, has come on plans himself. Keep in mind, I'm still waiting for Cory Booker and Kamala Harris to come up with something decent. Kamala Harris tried to come up with something just was very odd as far as housing plans go, but it was pretty much misunderstandable. I tried to look at that plan so many times, Miss Harris, but you gotta come with something else. I'm just saying. But again, it's just gonna be an interesting run in 2020. It really will be. But other news, though, as we're just moving right along, I never thought I'd see this day happen.
Down moments ago in a courtroom in Oklahoma, a judge ordered Johnson & Johnson to pay $572 million after determining that the New Jersey-based company helped fuel Oklahoma's opioid crisis. Johnson & Johnson was the only defendant in a 7-week trial that began at the end of May. Purdue Pharma and Teva Pharmaceutical both settled out of court. Johnson & Johnson has denied any wrongdoing. It is expected to appeal.
And I never thought I would see that day. And I mean it in so many words. Literally, a drug pharmaceutical company is being held responsible for the crisis they created. Although Johnson & Johnson will probably appeal the decision, but I just thought that was interesting that it actually took this much Well, actually, it just took a whole bunch of white people dying off opioids. But I'm going to be honest about that because it's always interesting to me that this opioid crisis that we're getting is just that. Why is it? It just amazed me so that the same response that wasn't given to the crack cocaine epidemic, the crack cocaine epidemic, is not getting the same type of light as the opioid crisis that we're getting now. So it's just weird to me that, for lack of better words, how in the blue hell, well, how we should feel about it, but it's amazing how companies are being held responsible or trying to be held responsible. Just the simple fact of the matter is just that, yes, people are dying, but you're not looking at the fact that maybe people are overprescribed, maybe that people are denied alternatives such as marijuana and CBD. It's like, again, the American health system is a for-profit business system, and companies have been getting away with this for years. So if that's the case, you really should be going after every drug pharmaceutical company because, let's be honest, sick patients are the best customers. But I just thought that was interesting that Johnson & Johnson was literally and figuratively was about to honestly pay a toll for that. But again, still could be appealed and all that good stuff. Another story I did cover earlier this year was about UPS. And UPS pretty much having their drivers work in 100+ degree weather, and these kind of trucks, the kind of trucks that are open on the sides and literally have no air condition whatsoever. And as you can see, it's all metal on the inside. So again, anybody who's ever been near a UPS truck or working in a UPS truck, you automatically understand you are pretty much sitting in a metal hot box. And in 100-degree weather, trust me, it'll probably feel like 110, 120 in that vehicle. And that simple fact of the matter is that you're making a bunch of stops that you still have to. Well, anyway, OSHA decided to hit UPS with their max penalty of $13,260. That's the most that they can actually hit them with. From OSHA. And although that's kind of pennies in a bucket, considering that UPS is a billion-dollar company, its simple fact of the matter is just that its warehouses and its trucks don't have appropriate air conditioning, that people are literally working drenched in sweat, and yet have a lot of heat exhaustion, heat strokes, and anything of that nature. So shouldn't really be surprising with the simple fact of the matter that a lot of things do need to change. I said the same thing about Amazon. Amazon also, there was a story about that earlier, where you had individuals, delivering, you had Amazon individuals delivering anywhere from 210 stops a day to sometimes almost 300 stops a day. It was only for an individual. Keep in mind, there's a single individual in these trucks that have to make 300 deliveries, which could be equal up to 120 stops a day. Now, in 90-degree weather, that adds up pretty much. And again, for these drivers, you gotta be careful about not only water consumption, but where you go to the bathroom and all this stuff. And again, getting these deliveries out. And it's only because these companies are pushing to the upper limit to get this done. And I just think it's completely asinine that they're not being held responsible for the injury, harm, and sometimes even death that they cause by pushing individuals this far. So, I appreciate. OSHA is great for really pointing on that. But let's be honest, this actually didn't become a story until it was reported. And even so, the $13,000 fine plus, it doesn't really add up to really making a dent until they actually start hitting the company where it hurts. And honestly, it has to be in the wallet. But moving right along, Joe Biden, another reason why this man should not be president, well, basically because of this.
Reportedly mistelling
a story on the campaign trail about one soldier's heroism. Biden has been telling some version of this story for years. Major Garrett is in Washington. He's been there for years. He's probably heard the story. Major, what is the former vice president saying?
Well, good morning. Biden, we should note, is unapologetic, telling reporters that the essence of this story about military bravery, loss, and guilt is true. But this is not about just another Joe Biden gaffe. It is about Biden telling the story methodically and with great passion, but reportedly getting almost every key detail wrong. Now, truth in the age of President Trump has taken a beating. But when it comes to military stories, precision matters. In this case, Biden didn't have it.
This guy climbed down a ravine. carried this guy up on his back under fire.
Former Vice President Joe Biden retold the story of a heroic Navy captain during a campaign stop in New Hampshire last week.
The general wanted me to pin the silver star on him. I got up there and stand. This is God's truth. My word is a Biden. He stood at attention. I went to pin him. I said, sir, I don't want the damn thing. Do not pin it on me, sir. Please, sir. Do not do that. He died. He died.
But according to the Washington Post, who spoke to more than a dozen military and campaign sources, Biden got the time period, the location, the heroic act, the type of medal, the military branch, and the rank of the recipient, as well as his own role in the ceremony, wrong. Biden's story appears to have some truthful elements. In 2011, Biden did award a medal to Army Staff Sergeant Chad Workman after the soldier tried to retrieve a dying comrade from a burning vehicle. Workman told the Post he felt Biden really understood his situation. But the soldier at the center of Biden's searing campaign story received the Medal of Honor from President Obama. In an interview Thursday, Biden called the criticisms ridiculous, saying, "The central point is it was absolutely accurate what I said. The story was that he refused the medal because the fella he tried to save and risked his life saving died. That's the beginning, middle, and end." If Biden were to win his party's nomination, he would be running against President Trump, who, the Washington Post notes, has made more than 12,000 false or misleading statements of his own since he took office. Biden has made other blunders recently.
We choose truth over facts. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
That in some quarters have provoked questions about his age.
I say if they're concerned, don't vote for me.
No one has accused Biden of lying or exploiting military sacrifice. For Democratic voters, Tony, the question may be, is this a sign that more than Biden's memory is at fault, or just that his facts are wrong, but his passion is right?
And Major.
Or it could be the fact of the matter is the man doesn't be president because, no offense, Joe, you're a little long in the tooth. And don't get me wrong, Biden has been a wonderful vice president. He really has, under President Obama. But again, Biden has kind of showed that when it really comes down to it, he just might not be the right caliber for this next generation. And it's kind of showing because he's kind of taking a Donald Trump route to things. You know, if you don't like it, then don't vote for me. Whoa, that's not what you want to say when you're trying to get viewers, sir. But it was just the whole thing of just really, for lack of better words, there's not attack there. It's almost like he's so frustrated that he's just going to say what he wants. And I'm like, sir, that's how Trump got elected. He pretty much said what he wanted to, and the nationalists and the racists and the bigotists all ate that up. I hope you don't do the same thing. I mean, that would be kind of fucked up. But again, in my opinion, Joe, I think it's time to kind of hang it up, dude. Because again, you're not showing anything. And you still have so many other things still hanging over your head that I'm not going to say you've yet to address. But you're pretty close on that. But anyway, like I said, that's really all the news that we had this week. Like I said, being that it's Labor Day weekend and being that, of course, hurricane seasons, like I said, for all those in Florida, hopefully you're being safe and whatnot. Aside from that, we're just going to go into the good news segment. Like I usually say on our good news segments, we usually do talk about a lot of things that kind of have you down the dumps. Not always good news. But again, since we do this on the weekend's supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you forget about work for at least 48 hours. So we do try to find some good news, some uplifting stories. Found a couple of them, and I thought this was cool because like I always say, the wisest people in the world usually are children. And this story just kind of exemplifies that example to me.
2 second grade
boys with a lesson for us all. 2 boys on their first day of second grade at Minnehaha Elementary School in Wichita, Kansas. Christian Moore on the right and Connor Kreitz on the left. Just moments before this photo was taken, Christian reached out for Connor's hand. He sensed Connor was overwhelmed on the first day. It turns out 8-year-old Connor is autistic. He was nonverbal until he was 5. And his mother told us late today what that other little boy, Christian, saw.
Christian seen him curled up in a corner, and he was crying. So all Christian did was go over and grab his hand. That simple act lit up his day. made him so happy. And that's all I can ask for, is for someone to be open to him like that.
And the two mothers side by side, Christian, who reached out his hand, his mother proud of her son's lesson to us all.
One act of kindness, can change someone's life.
Can change the world. That's all it takes.
Two boys beginning the second grade and beginning a new conversation about the power of something small, something kind. And here's what Connor's mother told us tonight.
I'm so happy that something so positive is coming from this, and that my son got a friend, and hopefully a friend for life.
Connor and Christian.
We loved it.
So again, it's like I've said it best and I'll say it again. Children are the wisest ones out there, to me. Because they're not changed, or they're not divided or anything of that nature. They're just kids. Kids will always want to hang around with the kids. That will never change. The simple fact of the matter is that one child walked into another child, was able to communicate, and now look at it. It's like now the child has made a friend. That's usually how it usually works for us when we're kids. We don't actually have an introduction on how we become kids. We just also start playing together. That's really how it usually goes. So I find it interesting that how is it that a child who only sees another child and just literally wants to be friends with them is by far the easiest way to understand how the human condition works. And also, and like I said, it's pretty cool whenever I see that. Like, children are never told not to play with each other until adults step in. Aside from that, kids will play with each other regardless. But I just thought that was just cool that you could actually see that in its working, and just have some hope for the next generation, really. And speaking of that, like I said, usually about paying it forward, this was also another cool story I found also as well that I thought was worth sharing.
Show us that what unites us as Americans is far greater than what divides us. In communities across the country, people are getting creative to make sure their neighbors don't go hungry. Roughly 40 million Americans are food insecure, meaning they can't always afford food. We visited one Minnesota neighborhood.
Yeah. We just not allowed to be raped. Well, I tried. Okay, well, I tried. So, don't worry, we got it. All right, so I apologize for the video, guys. So anyway, the video I want to show up was this woman right here. The woman right here on the left actually started a food pantry in St. Paul, Minnesota. So what she pretty much did, where if you've ever seen like in some areas where schools or libraries have this little thing up, like a free library book, take a book kind of thing, where it's never locked, but you take a book, but you always put a book back in there, kind of like sharing literacy. This woman had the same idea about the food pantry. She literally sets up this pantry in front of her house and usually stocks it up with things that people can use. So I think it's kind of cool that she's actually inspiring other people in her neighborhood to actually start doing this kind of stuff, to where they have these free pantries. Now, granted, it doesn't have, she said and said they're trying to really get this up to where, it's kind of a no questions asked. If you need it, go ahead and take it situation. And just really trying to help the community the best they can. And that, to me, tells me that there's still humanity, there's still some humanity left. Like, understand, we all struggle. I don't get, it's like we all, unless you look outside of your 6 to 7 bedroom house with pool and whatnot, and you're, don't have multiple businesses, or you don't, you're not, as I like to say, you're not well off in life. But if you're not well off in life, then yes, you struggle. Nobody is immune to that except rich people. But I do love the simple fact of the matter is that there is commonality in the simple fact of the matter that people can come together and literally and figuratively just try to help each other out the best way they can. Like I said, like I've always said a lot of times, be a blessing, not a doormat. But that's going to wrap it up for this show, guys. Like I said, do apologize for the very, very, very late start of this. I do apologize for that, but thank you guys all for watching, for commenting. I really appreciate that. But some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. I usually, aside from this show, I do have my other show, Offense Podcast, which will be starting on time. It will be starting on time at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. We'll be live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Off Limits. We do have civil conversations, and what I mean by that is just that when we were growing up, he was always told, don't ever talk about politics, sex, religion, because you don't want to make anybody feel awkward. I believe the simple fact of the matter is that we never talked about those in a situation to where we could actually have civil discussions, kind of led to where we are today. People not really talking, people just yelling over each other, people not getting their points across, people not hearing each other. And that's the whole point of Offense Podcast. It's just that we need to have those civil conversations. Yes, we do talk about the silly stuff. Yes, we do talk about the extreme stuff. And yes, we do talk about the things that a lot of people dare not to talk about. It's only because we're trying to find understanding. So we are the podcast that definitely does go there. But again, Offense Podcast, that'll be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tonight, live on Facebook. My other buddy who should be strolling in here in about the next couple of hours or so, Thomas Reed, we call him the Mountain Puncher, definitely has a To Be Determined podcast. What is To Be Determined? If you've never seen Thomas or have seen multiple videos of him on Facebook, at Thomas Reed on Facebook, by the way, feel free to add him. He is a gym rat. He stays in the gym 7 days a week. I wish I could make that up. But he does love to talk about fitness and all things fitness, what works for him, what doesn't work, what things you can try with food and nutrition, and just kind of giving his personal testimony on the world of fitness and how you can actually change your results with a To Be Determined upon you, which should be a little bit later, between 2 and 3 p.m. sometime, also on Facebook Live. My other buddy who is in his chat right now, Trace Brown, DJ King Eddie Wayne on YouTube, Trace Brown on Facebook, has a few podcasts of his own. He has The Bump Down, which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers. It is a musical podcast in which he goes over what's hot on the charts and what's not, what's pretty much on charts and on underground, and talks about upcoming artists like Kiki J, Who Hungry Let's Eat, that is currently being pushed out right now. Trace, if you don't mind putting in the comments field where they can find that music. And also, if you are an artist that wants to have your music played on the Bump Down, please reach out to Trace on DJ King and Wayne on YouTube, or Trace Brown on Facebook, and he will give you the details on how you can upload music to him to have it played. He also has the Smoke with Truth, as I like to call it, the unfiltered check your ego at the door podcast. Ooh, excuse me, that is not for the faint of heart. But if you're willing to have an open mind and willing to be able to talk and willing to be able to accept it and willing to actually have that conversation, because trust me, Trace wants all the smoke. The Smoke of Truth is definitely a good podcast. Like I said, very unorthodox but very intelligent brothers you should definitely listen to. My other buddy that actually was actually on, I don't know if he was on this morning. He might have been on yet. I know he was on last night, but he might have been on early this morning. I might have missed it. Von Weatherspoon, Ace Von Weatherspoon, on Facebook, and of course Big VZA podcast on YouTube has several podcasts of his own. He actually has the I Get That Reference VST, which is a 30-minute podcast just go over various news. The news could be music, could be video games, could be movie trailers that are coming up and things of that nature. Very and highly informative show, interactive, just like mine. He also has Rhythmness, which he dished this yesterday, last night, in which he goes over musical albums, where he reminisces over the rhythm, where he pretty much goes over musical albums to a 4-tier rating system. I did like that Rhapsody. That was probably last night, was the only night I kind of gave Shove and Take My Money to Rhapsody, to Common, and to Bun B. Well, then again, I've always been a fan of Bun B. But again, that was probably the first time on that show I was actually able to give three shove and take my money. That's just one of the tier rating systems. For the other ones, you have to watch Rhythmness to find out. Also, with that being said, he does have Random as Fuck. Want to go easy? What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of ratness we sometimes dip our toes into. Just take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos make you think. Some videos make you cry. Some videos, like my all-time favorite, then this is on WorldStar, by the way, if you want to look this up. A woman was sitting at a drive-thru at Burger King. The Burger King employees are all outside. This woman is waiting for change at the secondary drive-thru, and the Burger King is on fire. And she's still there. I wish I could make that up. That's an actual video. But again, Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ. You can actually look up on Ace Von Weatherspoon on Facebook and be able to see a calendar of when all his shows, as he does put up a calendar of when all his shows will be premiering, and just basically like, share, and subscribe from there. My other buddy John Wingnut at Wingnut Gaming on Facebook. What is Wingnut Gaming? Wingnut Gaming is my buddy John's gaming channel. in which he plays Call of Duty, he plays Apex Legends, he plays Fortnite. His choice, not mine. He also they actually just started playing World of Warcraft Classic. For all you World of Warcraft fans, myself included, it's kind of been a while since I played World of Warcraft. But again, he is a very social commentator. Loves to talk with people as he's playing. Loves to crack jokes, things of that nature. If you mentioned you're a Pats fan, you're down for life. But again, Wingnut Gaming, you can find that on Facebook. Like, share, and subscribe from there. So I'm looking forward to actually, like I said, we have other podcasts for our Table of Boston links. I actually want to upgrade my gaming equipment, because I have a wonderful idea for Vaughn and a wonderful idea for Thomas, because they're not as like, I get into games like, I'll say this real quick. If I play video games, I'm playing video games for a while. It's like 8-9 hours easy. The day could go by and I wouldn't notice, but that's only because I get really into it. Vaughn has a list of games he's never beat. Thomas still is working on one game he hasn't beat, and I always thought it was interesting that I wanted to get a social commentary gaming channel started to where I can have those two on and literally just allow the magic to happen. So I'm trying to work that out, trying to get a gaming rig set up to where I'm able to accomplish this, because I'm kind of wanting to do it with these two. I mean, it would be no fun with me, because with me, it's just a shitload of cussing. It's pretty much when I'm playing video games, especially playing heavy narrative first-person shooter games. There's just a shitload of cussing on my part. But anyway, I'm hoping to get that set up. We don't have titles for it yet, but I'm looking forward to it once I actually get all that linked up together. So, with that being said, guys, I just want to say the last thing I said, how Frack We Got Here. It's all about staying informed. What I mean by that is, if you don't accept everything at face value, you literally go in and try to find the actual truth and be able to do your own research, to be actually able to be able to go deeper into finding out what's really the truth and what's really bullshit, and be able to come back and show others what you meant, because that actually starts the conversation to having an informed community, because an uninformed community got us Trump, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So, thank you all guys for watching here live. If you're watching this on the playback, go ahead and comment as if you're actually there. I know you Trump supporters will. And aside from that, guys, I do apologize for the late start. I promise we will be better about this. But looking forward to see you guys on our other podcasts here at the Table of Bosses Nation. And hope you guys have a good weekend. Again, if you're in Florida, please get the fuck out, or please don't stay there. A beach house is not worth your life. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, for all those in Florida, be safe. For everybody else, have a great weekend.